In this presentation, we're going to look at the English for Work course series. The series consists of 9 independent modules, available at 2 levels: B1, Lower Intermediate, and B2, Upper Intermediate. The 9 modules are Applying for a Job, Banking and Finance, Dealing with the Public, Meetings, Negotiating and Selling, Presenting your work or making presentations at B2 level, telephoning, travelling, and writing. Students can study from 1 up to 9 modules at their level, depending on their work context and their requirements. We calculate that a student will need between 22 and 25 hours to complete each module. Each module is structured in the same way, so we're going to look at one module to familiarise you with the structure. So, for the purpose of this presentation, we're going to look at the Meetings module at B2 level. What you can see here is the standard welcome page that the student sees when they log into the platform. On the right, you can see a series of graphs, which illustrate the student's progress through the assess parts of the module. The assess parts of the course are the tests. You can see tests 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the final test. You can also see a graph for speaking, because this module contains speaking tutorials, and one for writing, because it also contains writing tutorials. The tutorial structure is different in each module. In some modules, there are only speaking tutorials. In others, there are only writing tutorials. And again, in others, there are both. However, the total tutor time per module is always the same. Each module corresponds to 1 hour and 30 minutes tutor time for the tutorials and 15 minutes for administrative tasks. We're going to look at the Meetings module. You can see that the module is divided up into 6 sections. And the first thing you see is the contents page, which outlines the contents of each section, including where the different tutorial sections can be found, marked in blue. You can see that there is a speaking tutorial in section 1, a writing tutorial in section 2, another writing tutorial in section 3, and a second speaking tutorial in section 5. You'll also notice that each section is followed by a test section, which is where we test the students on discrete items which they have looked at in the previous section. These tests, along with the tutorials, is how we evaluate the students' progress on the course. We're going to go into the first section of the course to show you how a typical section is structured. This first section is called Meeting Basics. And below the title, students will see a description of what they can expect to learn in that section. The section is organised in 10 tabs. Each tab contains a different exercise. The first tab contains a general questionnaire about participating in meetings to try to stimulate an interest in the topic. From tab 3, we start exploring meeting vocabulary in context. Students are asked to identify the correct word from a selection of potentially confusing words for a particular context. In the next tab, we work more on these collocations. For example, a business meeting, a doctor's appointment, a blind date, a school reunion, a friendly get-together, and an international summit. Then we continue to work on more vocabulary items related to meetings in different business contexts. We continue to do this until the last tab, where the students are presented with their first speaking tutorial task. In this example, the students are instructed to contact their tutor to set up the speaking tutorial for a mutually convenient time. And then, in the speaking tutorial, the student follows the prompts, explaining to the tutor about meetings they attend and speaking about meetings in general. And in doing so, hopefully practice language focused on in this section. During the speaking tutorial, the tutor takes notes and then sends feedback to the student after the speaking tutorial. The time allocation for tutors to write speaking tutorial feedback is 10 minutes. Once they have finished the first section, the students go on to Test 1, which tests discrete items which they have looked at in the first section. They can only submit this test once. They see a warning before they submit the test, so they know this, and then they see the results. In Section 2, we look at the different stages of a meeting and how to effectively signpost these stages. Firstly, students look at how to open a meeting. Students listen to the language in context and look at meaning first.
Okay, good evening everybody. I think most people have arrived. Janice Brown's on her way. She called to let us know that she'd be delayed. Now I'd like to welcome two people who haven't been with us before. Richard Garcia, we're delighted to have you with us today.
In the listening exercises, students can slow down the speed of the listening if they find them difficult to follow. They then look at phrases and language used in the listening. This is when we focus on form. We then move on to look at how to discuss issues in a meeting, asking questions and answers. In exercise 7, we can see an example of constructive feedback. So rather than a student just getting correct or incorrect as feedback, we try to give the student as much constructive feedback as possible to help the student understand why an answer is correct or incorrect. And in this way, we replicate what a teacher would do in the classroom and hopefully help the student to engage in cognitive processes, which assist learning. We then finish with looking at how to end a meeting. This continues with the other sections. On the last tab, the students see their first writing tutorial task. For this task, the students are prompted to write a summary of a meeting that they recently attended, and by doing so, hopefully use some of the language practiced in this section. The time allocation for tutors for writing tutorial feedback is 15 minutes. In Section 4, we look at different meeting types. On tab 6, students see videos of 3 different types of meetings, which is another great example of how language is always presented in context. The students need to decide which videos correspond to extracts from an informal meeting, a business meeting, or a committee meeting.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming here today, especially in this weather. Although I do have a list of apologies from committee members who weren't able to make it due to the storm this morning and the cancelled trains. Today, we'll follow our usual procedure by going through the motions and taking a vote on each of those. If we can't reach a consensus, I'll make a cast.
Cora, do you think we could get together with the rancher to look at holiday arrangements? Pierre's brought up holiday cover in the office and I want to sort it out before I go away.
Yes, sure, Brad. Good morning, everybody. Right, I'd like to start by welcoming everyone. By the way, I'm running the meeting today as Carlo is sick.
Okay, fine. We then start to look at the language used in each meeting context and how it differs. In the final section, there is a language review at the end. This is a document in PDF format, which students can download and have access to after they have finished the course. The course finishes with a final test, which is divided into 4 sections. This test is also used to assess the student's progress in the course, along with the other tests and tutorials. There is also a feedback section on the platform, where students can send us their feedback on the module. Tutors are sent a copy of this feedback, and it also registers on the platform. If we go back to the welcome page, we can see that it now looks slightly different. We can see that there is now a mark for the first test, and the student has completed 11% of the course. You can also see that the blue bar has some yellow in it, which indicates the progress in this module. There is also a link for students to download their certificate once they have passed the course. The pass mark is 60%. This is the end of this English for Work training video.